Chapter 15. They are not generally very social, chatty people, she told Linda as they walked over to the glass lift. Linda was stunned by the view. Yeah, it really is something. The view from where I grew was pretty impressive, but this year is nuts. It feels strange to look at it, Linda murmured, eyes fixed on the world above. Like reality folding in on itself. But then the green, all that green, flowing with life. I can feel something primal, deep inside me, responding to it, calming me. Wait till you try the drinks, she said with a smirk. Biggie had struggled to get the large device out of the orbiter to where one of the large robo-dogs effortlessly shifted it onto its back and then followed them towards the glass lift. Biggie was already on his way back down and would be a few hours before he would return with more people. The anticipation of awakening the PBAI meant that many wanted to be present, but only those needed for the expertise car seat. They went straight to work getting everything ready. It took a few hours to prepare the connections and install the device. The instructions had shown how they were to dig out the place on the top of a grassy hill that covered some hidden interface into the station. The robo-dogs made quick work of the excavations, and a few hours later they had the device in place. Wires snaking around the ground. 2 caretakers arrived, one with long grey dreadlocks named Arali, and the other an ashy blonde woman with a small frame called Andvara. They were the only 2 caretakers who were not swamped with an overburdened workload. She thought to herself that maybe she should organize the Martians into helping the caretakers with some tasks, once the device had been activated and done whatever it was going to do. Vicky arrived with 3 other Martian technicians. Everything was set. All that remained was for her to place the tablet into the device and then hope everything worked. She hoped that this time Elise would get a more significant boost to her charge, so that she could afford to stay awake for longer. We are all ready, yes, said Jacob, looking around at those gathered here together. It was such a loaded moment, all of them anticipating a glimpse into divinity. Jacob indicated for her to place the tablet into the device. When you're ready, he said, and stepped aside. She walked towards the device and very gently placed it in the space Jacob had indicated and stepped back. A second passed, and then the tablet lit up. For a moment, nothing else happened. A bit anticlimactic, Vicky muttered from behind her. She was about to respond when the air changed. She couldn't say how exactly. It wasn't something seen, but felt. Like the station itself had shifted. Like reality had flickered and come back slightly different. Whoa, Vicky breathed. It wasn't just her. The tablet screen began to shift. Fractal patterns unfurled, flowing like a liquid code. Then the air took on the scent of ozone, sharp and electric, like a storm about to break. Later, when they reviewed the security footage, they would see it. Glitches, odd occurrences all over the station. Doors opening and closing without input, lights flickering in deliberate sequences, drones stopping, pivoting, resuming their tasks as if something was testing them. Jacob would later confirm the PBAI had been moving through the station, clearing out the virus testing variables of control. The screen on the tablet then went blank. She almost called out in panic, but this time held her tongue. A moment later, the tablet came alive again with text flashing in its center, updating and processing. And a short progress bar later, station overall complete, 27,763 bugs fixed, and then blank. The two caretakers, Arali and Andvara, whooped more from confusion than anything else. What does this mean? Arali asked. Go check the consoles in Kai's control room, she said, having a hunch. The two caretakers both jogged over to the cozy cottage. Then, a moment later, Andvara stuck her head out and yelled, You better come and see this. They all hurried down to the cottage. Inside, they found that all the screens were showing those twirly fractal patterns, the same as the tablet had been. There were designs and maps and code that emerged and faded in and out. What's going on? Said Linda to no one in particular. No one answered. All of them were staring at the flowing information, wondering the same thing. And then the patterns resolved themselves into a female face, a brunette, eyes bright with intelligence. Hi, came a cheerful voice, blasting loudly from every speaker in the area, and then a bit lower. Oh shit, sorry, this better? She was the first to find her voice as she asked, Is it you, Elise? The woman on the screen smiled and answered, In the flesh, now at a much more comfortable volume. Well, not in flesh, but I am here now. I don't understand, she said, confused. I thought we were charging the tablet. How are you here? There. Well, the thing is, I had very little time and a lot to say. Or I would have explained, said Elise. I transferred from the tablet to the station. Elise smiled at her from the screen. A smile full of love and understanding, as if she read the inner turmoil inside of her. All the questions inside her head competing for attention. So, I am the station now. Same old ghost in a much bigger shell. Elise said, and then a video of the station began to play, as if seen from the eyes of a bird gliding around. Another screen showed a detailed map, like the one she had seen of her city back on Earth the first time the tablet had awoken. The others had remained completely silent up till now. Then Andvara pointed to a large open area on a part of the map which was close to the exterior. I've never seen that part of the station. Elise answered immediately. The manufacturing and assembling area. It can produce almost anything. Currently, it is creating a deep space capable ship. Estimated time to completion is 5 months. They all looked around at each other as to check if they weren't the only ones who were blown away by what was happening. What are you building the spaceship for? Asked Linda. So that my savior can continue her journey onwards to find oldest, answered Elise with a warm, caring voice, looking straight at her, radiating empathy. That took her by surprise. Her own ship? She realized that everyone was looking at her, waiting to see her reaction. What was her reaction? Her mind was blank. The weight of it all. She heard herself say, but no words could form. The spell broke when Vicky jumped in. That is so cool! That was all it took. Suddenly, everyone was talking at once, voices overlapping with excitement. speculation and disbelief, all of them humbly, respectfully speaking as if they were addressing a deity. She finally got an idea. She needed a drink. She grabbed a terminal and walked out towards the chill zone. "Where is that little drink mixer?" she said to herself, and slumped into the hammock. The terminal came alive. "Cat got your tongue" stood in bright green friendly letters. "Just processing. I did not see this coming," she said. "Would have told you, but there was much to say and little time." I understand, realizing that part of her held some small resentment over not having been in on the loop, having been surprised like that in front of everybody. However, she knew she was just being silly. This was a great turn of events in every possible way. "Tell me about the ship," she said, to divert her passing grumpiness. "How fast is it? What kind of bio area is there? How many can it support?" The terminal's screen shifted. A torrent of information began flowing across it. Technical specifications, blueprints, intricate system diagrams. The ship could support 5 adults easily for a duration of half a year with very low probability of any issues. A network map revealed the biochemical recycling processes with mechanical and biological systems woven together in intricate cyclical chains. She'd have to study all of that later. She imitated Vicky's voice from earlier. "That is super cool." Right on cue, the little robot bartender trotted over, balancing a tray of fresh drinks. "You little lifesaver," she said, and grabbed a blue one. After a few musing sips and a chance to process, she said, "So this station has just been waiting for you?" "Not me specifically," Elise answered, "but someone like me." She frowned. "Are there many more like you?" "There used to be." "Where did they go?" Elise hesitated a moment, then answered, "When the origin dies, meaning the person who a PBAI is built on, the now detached PBAI has little reason to stay tethered to the real world, unless some strong purpose keeps it there. So they dive deep into the realm of digital space, into the soul of the universe, which is infinitely deep and complex. There, the concept of time is stretchable." She blinked. "Sounds like a groovy afterlife," she said, and downed the last of the blue drink. After a moment, she said, "So what was the point of the station then? Clearly it was not just to dump its contents on Mars and call it a day." "No, that was a cover," Elise admitted. "Its true reason was to help humanity get a boost out into space." While she grabbed herself another drink, Elise continued. "When the 500 decided to leave the inner planets and push out into deeper space, they anticipated that one day humanity would follow with another push. Only they would not have the advantages that the 500 had gained. The PBAI symbiosis and centuries of experience in surviving and thriving in the harshness of space. They guessed that the second wave would have little chance of success by itself. The station was built to help an emerging new space humanity by providing food and manufacturing to support hundreds of thousands of space pioneers, accelerating the advancement into space and preparing them for the challenges of deep space voyages. And then they quarantined the inner planets because humans are too dumb," she said, pleased to again be receiving such amazing insights into the history of the solar system. and feeling the effects of the 2 drinks sloshing in her belly. The 500 had intended it as a temporary block to delay the expansion of a human society bent on consumption and expansion, to set milestones that pushed humanity to evolve beyond the fear-driven impulse of flight or fight. Here, Ellie's voice darkened. Everything changed after the tribes attacked the 500 and then released Death into orbit. That they would do such a thing. No reason other than destruction and hate. She woke up in the hammock with the terminal resting on her chest. She had stayed up late, long into the artificial night, talking with Elise. She had learned about the vast, ambitious projects the 500 had set in motion before they vanished from the inner planets. Spaceborne factories, deep space habitats, fleets built for journeys beyond known worlds. Visions so enormous that they bordered on the mythic. After breakfast, she wandered into the operations room. The Martians were on one side, locked in deep interface with Elise. The 2 caretakers were on the other, now joined by a third, a scruffy-looking guy with long blonde dreads down his back and loose baggy clothing. They were all deeply engaged with their work, Elise seemingly able to engage with all of them at the same time. She threw a "good morning" into the room. Everybody responded without taking their attention off what they were doing. She smirked and went out to the chill zone, settling with the terminal. "What are they doing in there?" she asked. Elise answered from the device on her lap. "Our friends from Mars are studying genetic sequence in the database, preparing to expand and update their habitats. They're making plans for new bases in anticipation of migrants from Earth, and researching ways to sustain Martian biology in the valleys. Meanwhile, the caretakers are each pursuing their own ideas. I introduced the system to help organize a democratic structure. They are highly independent, but seem content to let me condense their divided goals into a unified whole." She smiled. It was funny, in a way, this feeling she had. For this incredible journey, Elise had been this fragile secret that had been hers alone, that she had had to protect from the world until just yesterday. Now it was guiding multiple people on changing the fate of thousands. She was happy, and yet also a little sad over losing such a precious role. She felt she needed new purpose, at least while waiting for the shift to be done. "Anything I can do to help?" she asked. A list of topics popped up. "All these decisions need input," Elise answered. "I have gone through variations of project outlined for the future of Mars and the station. These are some core dilemmas relating to potential conflicts, political structures, economic models, research management." She was interested in learning what the future conflicts might be, so she read through some of the outlines, made some notes, but then quickly got bored. There were a lot of minor details to iron out. She put the terminal aside and lay back, gazing up at the scattered houses and greenery arching up in the sky. Then something caught her eye. A white speck moving. She squinted, trying to see what it was. Hovering near the center of the station, where there was no gravity from the centrifugal force. Curious, she activated the terminal camera, zooming in. It was a bird, an owl. She stared, mesmerized. It drifted strangely, its wings waving slow and deliberate, unanchored by gravity, slicing through the air with precise calculated motions. It looked out of place and yet perfectly at home. She watched it admiringly. Then an idea formed. A project to focus on while she waited. The next few weeks became a whirlwind of change. More Martians came up to the station. The caretakers, freed from their endless burdens caused by the cascades, now finding new things to do. Some of them stepping into the politics of future planning, while others chose to visit the planet below. Everything bringing the two worlds closer together. There were conflicts, debates over policies and long-term plans. Elise was at the heart of it all, acting as a moderator, refusing to make the decisions for them. My role is optimization and mediation, she explained. You need to decide how you want your future to be. Feeling bored herself of the tedium, she would organize parties and fun activities, intending to lighten the mood. These parties became an important fixture in life on the station, a place for more light-hearted conversations. Her reputation, both above and below, became one of reverence. People would bow to her or make other gestures of deep respect. It made her rather uncomfortable, so she tried to downplay herself and claimed to be unimportant, which only made people list off her achievements one by one, leaving her embarrassed and itching to escape the conversation. So she fled down into the manufacturing space, where her ship was slowly taking shape, and she worked on her secret project. 5 prototypes came and went, each redesigned with the help from Elise, until she had something that she was confident would work, something anyone could use. She had relied on simulations for testing, a good idea, as she would have likely otherwise broken every bone in her body before the safety systems were perfected. It had been 2 months in the making, but now it was ready. She assembled the final version and brought it up in the elevator to the station's central zero-gravity core. Her heart pounded as she slid the contraption onto her back, secured the straps, and flicked the power switch. 2 silver wings unfolded from the pack on her back, shifting in perfect sync with her movements. She lifted her hands, wiggled her fingers, and watched as the wings' surfaces responded instantly, shifting, adjusting like an extension of her own body. She had thought about how the owl had flown, defying millennia of gravity-bound evolution to master flight in conditions that no bird had ever flown before. Now for the real test. She kicked off the magnetic boots and allowed herself to glide a little way off from the platform. At first, she simply drifted, feeling how little movements shifted her angle and momentum. Then she spread her arms. The wings caught the air, pulling her in a new direction. Her heart pounded. She had practiced this in simulations, but this was real. She wanted to stop the slight spin she was in, and overcorrected, sending her into an even worse rotation. Her stomach churned. She fought an instinct to flail around. She had designed a beginner's mode with stability assistance into the wings, but no, she wanted to experience it unaided. She focused, making smaller, more controlled adjustments, letting the feel of the air and motion guide her. It got worse before it got better, and she almost gave in. Then something clicked, and she got the hang of it, managing to gradually slow down and stop, which was good, because her stomach was starting to send some nauseating warnings. Okay, she murmured. There it is. Her confidence grew as she experimented with some fine movements at first, then increasingly bigger, and then she went for it. She pushed down hard, the wings compressing the air and she shot forward, the rush of adrenaline sending a wonderful shock throughout her body. She let out a whoop, arms tucked at her sides, adjusting her fingers slightly to turn, bank, and glide. She dove through the station's central open space, soaring through the fields, buildings, and gardens. She could see people below, some noticing her and pointing. Then she spread her arms to slow down, feeling the air molecules pushing against the ultralight wings until she came to an almost complete stop, floating gently in space with a great big smile on her face. It worked. She flew around for a while, growing confidence with every movement. She put more power into the wings, slicing through the air, zooming across the station's vast central space, dodging the occasional spires that jutted out between the sides of the cylinder. Then, after another long arc, she circled back towards Guy's house and descended, almost blundering the landing, but recovering just in time. Pretty successful first flight. "What is that?" She turned around. It looked like everybody had torn themselves away from their work to come and investigate the flying phenomenon. She smiled and made the command to fold the wings into their origami compact form. The crowd was aligned in wonder. "This is a project I've been working on," she began. "I saw this owl." "Can I try it?" one of the caretakers interrupted. "Yeah, me too. Me too," said another. She raised her hand. "I will upload the training simulator," she said. "Once Elise has certified you, you are more than welcome to take it out." And that was that, the beginning of a new craze. Over the next few weeks, she flew often and improved quickly. Another set of wings were ready a few days later, with a third set being made as the waiting list for them was constantly filled. The growing station residents spent most of their time working with Elise, designing the future, running research projects. However, most of them now began to take time off to go flying, and her now weekly parties were highly anticipated. She had started this as a distraction, something to keep busy while she waited. Somehow it had evolved into her finding a meaningful role in the developing society. Everywhere she went, she was welcomed warmly by the people who had enjoyed her efforts, giving her a deep sense of belonging. She would still steal away often to the manufacturing area. Progress on her ship was amazing to watch. First, the simple skeletal frame of raw metal, filling up layer by layer, ending with a thick shielding hull. She watched it being built from the inside out by robots of all sizes, her own spaceship. The ship was nearly ready for launch, only a few more days now. She had been focusing on studying up on the ship and its maintenance. The ship would have a few robots along to help out, and Elise had created a simpler AI spawn of itself to run automation on the ship. This was far advanced of build ship, requiring only a fraction of the maintenance and monitoring that is as needed, meaning she would have a lot of free time for herself. Not necessarily a good thing. All by herself, in space, for months. "Shit," she said, feeling her sadness over the thought of leaving again. She would miss Mars and the station. She was a part of this community. She belonged here. It seemed to get harder each time to go, leaving her friends to go off into the unknown. Elise had warned her that there was going to be a surprise farewell party later that day. She was touched, but half wished she could just sneak off unnoticed, avoiding the weight of the goodbyes. having to face the emotions that gnawed at her resolve. She decided to take one last flight as a way of saying goodbye to the station. She strapped on the wings, launched herself into the air, and with a few well-practiced strokes, she was soaring. She knew where she wanted to go, to her secret spot. A grove by the base of a small waterfall, where the water split into two narrow streams, forming a small grassy island between them, hidden from view unless approached from the air. She landed softly, took off the wings and her clothes, and stepped into the cool water, laying down to float in the shallows beneath the waterfall. The water flowed around as she imagined all her stress melting and flowing away with the mild current. When she had cooled down, she climbed onto the soft grassy bank, stretching out and letting go of her mind. Thoughts floated in and floated away until her mind became quiet. Time seemed to melt away, and she found herself in a deep state of relaxation. The artificial sun began to dim, meaning it was time to head back and face the party. As she was getting dressed, she noticed something out of the corner of her eye. She looked over and saw a large white owl perched, observing her. She wondered if it was the same owl as she had seen before, come to berate her for stealing away her skies. But it seemed quite content there on its branch. "Hello there, friend," she ventured. The owl looked at her for a moment, but did not respond. She smiled at this moment she was having. A blissful feeling came over her that she knew she would hold on to for years to come. A farewell gift from the station that had already given her so much. She watched as the owl pruned itself and then leapt off the branch, flying away again. A feather had twirled down to the base of the tree, so she went over to pick it up. It was so soft and white as snow. This owl had not been bred for this environment. It had no reason to thrive here, and yet here it was. If ever there was a good omen, this had been it.